everybody. I am Kim to some. I am Daphne to others. Right to this girl sitting right next to me, I am called Mommy. And here we are to do this podcast together.
Yes. I'm Janaina or Nina, or to this woman next to me, I'm Tootsie Pop.
Tootsie Pop. She was a little girl, I called her Tootsie Pop. So, yes, we are a mother and daughter team for this segment. And so how old are you right now?
I'm 20 years old.
I'm 20. And what are you doing with your life right now?
I'm studying to be a tattoo artist. And I'm almost done with my course, but yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Okay, so what do you plan to do with your life for the next year?
I'm going to the U.S. We live in Brazil now, but I'm going to go to the U.S., live with my grandparents, your parents.
Right, my parents are going to have their hands full of Janaina for the next year.
Yeah, I'm not that hard to deal with.
No, she's easy. She's an easy kid.
Yeah.
And so we're doing this to have a moment to talk a little bit about something that we are both interested in, which is series. We love to talk. We love to talk about different series that we watched, and so I kind of encouraged her to watch a series that I watched many years ago, and when I was a little older than her when I watched it, but it's a whole nother world now and a whole nother generation. So we're going to get into that in a second. But first, let's talk about how you're doing. What's going on in your life? I know you did something extremely cool last night. Tell everybody what it is.
Yes, I went to a Harry Styles concert. I have had the tickets to this concert for almost 3 years. Almost 3 years? Yeah.
I don't know. No, not almost 3.
No, like 2.5.
2 and a few. Yeah, because you got it.
I got it in June. No, July.
You bought the tickets in June 2020.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to be
October 2020. But that didn't happen. And then they changed it, I think, to May 2021. And then that didn't happen either.
Oh my God.
And now it happened, December 2022.
Right. It was postponed twice. And your little teenage heart at the time was probably broken.
Oh, definitely. It was very broken.
So when you bought the tickets, you were 18 years old, I guess. So that
I wasn't 18 yet. I was still 17.
Oh, that's right. You hadn't turned 18.
Oh my God, I was still 17.
When you bought those tickets, and you're a huge Harry Styles fan, I can attest to that.
Yeah.
And so what was it like to see him in concert after all this anticipation?
It was crazy. I still kind of can't believe that I was actually there. You know, it's kind of crazy. Every time I go to concerts, it never it never really sinks in. Yeah, that I actually saw these people live and I was in the same place as them.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I have no idea. But it's amazing. Like, sometimes it sinks in and I'm like, oh my God, I actually went to a concert. That was crazy.
What concerts have you been to?
I have been to 5 Seconds of Summer, which I went to in 2017. I also went to Aurora in 2017 with you.
Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was a very small venue, so it was very cool.
Yeah, and we were pretty close to her.
Yeah. That was exciting for me.
Yeah, it was very exciting for me too. I really loved the experience. Then I went to Lollapalooza in 2019, I think.
I went to Lollapalooza in, what was it, 1991 or something? That was like one of the first Lollapaloozas I went in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Who did you watch in yours?
Oh God, there was that time of my life I mix up all the when I saw who.
Yeah.
But the Lollapalooza was like full of a whole bunch of
It was in Philadelphia.
Grungy. Yeah, I was in Philly.
Yeah.
And grungy types. Or was it Philly or was it in Camden? See, my memory's not all that great, but I remember, if you want to look it up, it was like 19 whatever.
But it was there were mostly grungy people there?
Well, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
It was the 90s, so it was that kind of...
Yeah, that's true.
You know, if there's no doubt there and stuff, it's like you can think of what that was like.
I went and I watched 21 Pilots. That's why I went. I went to watch them. And they're you know, the band that sings the Stressed Out.
Yeah.
You know? And it was really nice. I was really close as well to them. I ended up also seeing two Brazilian artists, which are Isa. She's a pretty big pop artist, and Gabriel Pensador. He's like a very famous, like, I don't know if he's considered rap, I guess, but it's very famous, and a lot of people like his music. It's kind of, I don't know how to explain the type of music, but it's very popular. And mostly people who smoke weed like listening to his songs. It's that type of vibe.
Is it like kind of reggae-ish sound?
A bit, I guess, maybe. But it was very fun. I enjoyed myself a lot. Even though I didn't like know the other artists that well, it was really fun. And it's a really cool experience, I think, to be there and have a bunch of like stages and stuff to go to. I know that other big artists went the same day that I was going, but they were at the same time as the things I wanted to see most. I think Post Malone went as well the day that I went, but I didn't see him. But yeah, it was really fun. And it's funny because nowadays Lollapalooza doesn't really, they rarely have like grungy stuff.
Oh, well, that's because it's not anymore.
Yeah, I guess.
Did I not see? I'm trying to find what year I went.
But after Lollapalooza, I went to see BTS in 2019 as well. I saw BTS in concert in the same place that I saw Harry yesterday.
Now, BTS, they're very special to the world right now because they sang... Or wait, it's the one guy from BTS.
Yeah, the one guy from BTS sang in the World Cup. But BTS is insanely huge nowadays. And it's funny because when I became a BTS fan, they weren't even that popular in the K-pop world. Because I was a fan of K-pop. And when I became a fan of BTS, they weren't that popular in the K-pop world. Like, yeah, they were popular, but not as much as they are. Obviously not as much as they are nowadays, and they weren't popular outside of K-pop, you know, like people who didn't know K-pop didn't know them because obviously they didn't know K-pop. But nowadays, even though someone who doesn't know anything about K-pop normally knows who BTS is, or at least knows about BTS, you know, and BTS is now like what everyone thinks of when someone says South Korea or K-pop.
So are you like one of those fans that's like a gatekeeper for fans?
Well, no, I don't think I'm a gatekeeper. It's just, it's really crazy to me to see how big it got. Because, I mean, I guess I've been a fan for 7 years now of BTS. And I saw how they grew. I saw them first like getting their first big awards in Korea, then their first big awards outside of Korea, and it was crazy. Like suddenly a bunch of people started listening to them.
And was that bad for you?
It wasn't bad. It was a bit annoying because it made getting to concerts harder. You know what I mean? That's the only, I feel very happy that they have, you know, a lot of people who listen to them and love them, because I know it's what they love to do and it's probably great for them. But as a fan, it is a bit stressful to have that big of a fandom because like it gets harder to get tickets and stuff.
So it makes it more annoying for people. Like when I understand you completely. For when I was younger, I remember that having that feeling when things that I liked that were super alternative all of a sudden became pop and like very well known. It was like my t-shirt was from the original, the first time they came to Philadelphia or whatever, and then everybody else was like, oh, I want to go see them too, and you're just like, yeah, okay, well, I went first. But so that's a little gatekeeperish. I think
it's
like
gatekeeperish.
It's like you want to keep it like it's kind of, you felt like a kind of kinship with the other people who were fans of the same thing that you loved, and then all of a sudden it became so well known that you didn't have that kinship, because it could be anybody, and that doesn't mean that like you would have something in common with these people.
Exactly.
When in the beginning you did feel like you would have something in common with those people.
Yeah, exactly. You put it in the words I was thinking. Yeah, that makes
like it doesn't guarantee that you'll be friends.
Exactly.
When it before it would guarantee, because you knew there was something different about that person.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's like a little bit of small.
Even for Harry Styles. No, but that makes sense. Even for Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson, who's also I'm a big fan of, they were from One Direction, and One Direction was huge. But I do feel like it has become different to be a Harry Styles fan than it was before, because just because someone likes Harry Styles now doesn't mean that they like the same things that I do, because Harry Styles is
more
huge
wildly,
as well.
yeah.
And
I love that that Nicole, or my youngest daughter, who's 9, she's turning 9 this month, she likes some Harry Styles songs, and she was so jealous of Janaina, who went to the concert last night.
It's so funny to me. And I when he played Watermelon Sugar and when he played As It Was, I was like, I can't not film it because I want Nicole to see what I filmed.
I showed it to her this morning.
She
loved it.
It was raining, so my phone almost like...
Did you put it in rice?
I didn't. It got normal after a while.
Okay.
Because I kept like hitting on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you alive?
Yeah. Hello.
So you were rained on during the concert?
I was completely rained on. Mm-hmm. It only stopped raining after the concert ended, which felt very mean of the world, of the universe.
It was not very good weather for the concert.
Yeah, but it was fun. He Harry himself, he was like, "Oh, are you not gonna have fun because of the rain?" And we were like, "We are gonna have fun." And he was like, "Don't worry, we're all gonna get wet. I'm gonna get wet, and we're still gonna have a good time."
Oh, that's good.
And it was really fun. It was really fun. And
you had a good time.
it was really cool because we went a lot later than most people went.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got there like half an hour before the show started, and we still got a good spot. And I think that the fact that it was raining helped, because a lot of people didn't want to be in the rain, so we ended up getting a better place.
So I think the rain worked in your favor, and so you can't really be sad about it.
We had already accepted that we weren't going to be able to see him. We were only going to see him in the screen. And we were already okay with it, but then we got to a place where we could see him, and it was crazy. I couldn't believe it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Congratulations. Anyway. I'm glad you had a great time.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get going on our segment for today, which is going to be our very first podcast about this segment. Yes. And it is called the ABCX&Z of the L word.
Yes.
Yeah, so here we go. The ABCX&Z of the L word.
Okay.
Okay, so then it's going to have a little doopy-doo, like with our pictures. Okay. All right, so this is the first one, so we are going to do the L Word Season 1. The OG L Word, the original L Word that was released in January of 2004. And you know what, Jenna? I was thinking, why? When did I watch this? Why did I watch this? And when I was trying to remember, rack my memory of why and when, and the circumstance of when I watched the L Word the first time. And I realized I did not watch it when I was living in the States. I moved to Brazil in 2001, and the L Word
was born in 2002.
Right. So it came out in 2004, and I was singing it. I was here, and things were not as widely available here then as they are now. They weren't as accessible. So I'm sure I found it in some situation where I watched it online. You know what I think I did? On one of my trips back to the States, during my downtime, I watched it when it was on Netflix or some kind of streamer. while I was there. I think I saw the whole 6 seasons on one of my trips.
Oh my God.
Like, because I would stay up late after I would see family and everything. I would, and friends and all this stuff you're supposed to do when you're on a trip to see family and friends. I would come back and I would watch episodes until like late at night. And then I would wake up in the morning and continue to watch the episodes because I knew when I came back here, I wouldn't be able to see them.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I need to see all the L words. I think I had seen maybe some here and there in Brazil, but not like in any order, and also sometimes dubbed and like all this kind of stuff that, and I wanted to see what the heck really happened in the L word.
Yeah.
I don't remember when I did this, but I think I remember it it was one of the trips that I took myself, and I stayed like 2 weeks.
By yourself?
I ended up watching all the L words on that way.
That's
the original L word.
Because you said streamer, and I remember that, it was really hard to watch stuff that they didn't, like, put on, like, normal TV.
Yeah.
Or anything. I remember watching Glee in this, like, site that you could only watch either one movie or 2 episodes of a show.
At a time.
Day.
Oh, I remember that. They had like they had like a limit,
Yeah.
And now you can just do.
I can do whatever you want.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of pop-ups and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Well,
even if you're not on the Netflixes and HBOs and stuff.
I think it must have been Netflix. And here on Netflix, there was no L word, but there in the States, Netflix still has L word. So, or whenever I did that. So that's when I watched it for the first time. So it wasn't really in 2004 where I got to watch all of them. So I was looking at it from a perspective of someone who, who would have watched it at the time it came out had it been available to me.
Yeah.
Because I happen to be a part of the LGBT community, LGBTQ plus community, because I can represent personally the B of the LGBTQ community. And so, like, it was very interesting to me to see this content and other lesbian content and bisexual content is really interesting to me. It's really fun to see yourself reflected in TV and movies. So, representation matters is one of those things that's showing up this year a lot, because there's so much diversity on TV now, but it wasn't at that time. The diversity wasn't at that time. So anything with diversity or with things from alternative, we had the Modern Family, which has that kind of representation, but they're men,
and
so
white.
And it's like a whole thing. So there's different kinds of reasons why it's very cool for me to watch this content, even though bisexuals usually deal with kind of invisibility, especially when you marry a man. Like, I'm married to a man now, so you would think that the B of me would kind of like disappear, and it doesn't, of course.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It's cool for me to get into this. And then I ask you why this type of content would be interesting to you, and why do you think that your mother said, watch this?
Well, I mean, I think it's definitely interesting to me because I always like watching stuff that has LGBT, representation. Representation. I really like every time that a show, it's funny because when I started watching these types of shows, like, even if they had like some sort of gay stuff, it was only like a little bit, and like with side characters. And I remember watching like 5 seasons of a show just to see a few scenes where there were like where there was like gay characters or LGBT characters. So nowadays, now they have more, obviously. But I still like to watch anything I can that has.
I think that's pretty common. Yeah. Like, that's why the L word became so popular, even though sometimes, like, you'll see as the seasons go on, the storyline kind of changes. But, like, you still watch it because you want to see those characters. You want to get that.
Exactly.
You just, and especially lesbians, because there's no lesbians anywhere. Like, there's mostly gay men. That's and so
even nowadays
there's very few. And then there's a joke that like lesbian characters always die and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, why? And so, like, when you find content that's good and interesting and well written, you just want to just like gobble it up. And then and then also when there's like one character that shows that they become they fall in love with their best friend or something. You watch it just looking for that, just to see how they do it. You know what I mean? And that's cool, and it makes things interesting. Anyway, how do you feel about the first season of the L Word in general? Before we get into the details of it,
I liked it a lot. It was really easy to watch it like fast because I kept wanting to know what happened next. And it's still, I'm in season 2 now, and I still feel the same. I thought it was very interesting, and it was cool to see how it was back then. You know, obviously it's almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And a lot has changed. A lot hasn't changed. I noticed that, but while watching it as well, that a lot has changed, but a lot hasn't changed, and it's interesting to see that.
So that was that you're making those comparisons in your mind.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's get into what it was about. We're going to talk only about season 1 for this section for today.
Okay.
So let's remember that. Okay, let's first get into the most recognizable actresses.
Okay.
I have written down some notes here. For me, the most recognizable actresses was Jennifer Beals, who plays Bet, because I had seen her in Flashdance, and I couldn't believe it. I thought it was just the coolest thing, and I was actually waiting for her to dance, and she doesn't. But I was really loved seeing her, and of course, all these actresses that I'm going to mention are they have lots and lots of experience with other things. But I tell you what, I remember them from. Pam Grier plays Kit. And she was famous for a lot of things, and that's why she was brought back to the Tarantino movies, because Tarantino loves to get actors and actresses famous for things they did in other decades, and then bring them into his movies. And that's what
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's why we have in Pulp Fiction we have the guy from Grease. Yeah.
What's his name? I forgot. John Travolta.
Yeah. The guy from Grease. No, they have John Travolta, which is not only known from Grease, but
obviously,
he's from, years ago, and then he grabs him and puts him back. And so he did that with Pam Grier, and I realized when I saw Jackie Brown in the 90s, which is a Tarantino movie, has Pam Grier, and then I looked a little bit into what she had already done, because I think she's so cool. And then she plays Kit, and so I saw her, and that was pretty awesome. And then we also have Sherry Jaffe, who's played by Rosanna Arquette, who's also in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Who's also in a Tarantino movie, Pulp Fiction. And also, I knew her from Desperately Seeking Susan, which is kind of embarrassing because that movie's not the best movie in the world. But it was the Madonna movie.
Madonna.
Yeah.
So
people.
It's really funny that you mentioned that. You showed me the trailer today, because I was watching another show that shows characters in different stages of their lives. It's the
characters or actors?
The characters.
Oh.
It's Firefly Lane, and it shows two best friends in different stages of their life. And they talk about going to see the Madonna movie in one of the scenes, and I watched it yesterday. And then you showed me the trailer, and I was like,
was it from the 80s though?
Yeah, it was,
because she's in a couple of movies, but that was the Madonna movie.
Yeah,
that's the one where she I don't know. Everybody watched it, and everybody dressed like that, and wanted to be like Madonna in that movie. So that was when I was a kid. Yeah. So I remember Rosanna Arquette from that, and then I remembered her from, she appears a little bit in Pulp Fiction. She's just a very cool actress, but she's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we also have other people who you recognized.
Yeah.
So who do you
recognized the actress that plays Jenny, because she was the mom of Elena in The Vampire Diaries. Elena is the main character in The Vampire Diaries.
Mia Kirshner.
Mia Kirshner, that's her name?
Plays Jenny Schechter.
Yeah. And she didn't have a lot of she didn't appear that much in the show, but she was an important character because she was the mom, and she was this emotionless vampire in it. And I remember I started watching The L Word, and I saw her as Jenny, and she still felt like an emotionless vampire in it as well, because she just has this way of speaking that sometimes it feels like she just doesn't have feelings. Like now she
we're just in the beginning of Jenny.
Now she feels like she has more feelings. But when it started, it was like she feels so like cold.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the actress for you. It's cool because you say like a non-feeling vampire, and she's kind of vampire-y, but we haven't gotten to that part yet, so let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
We're in season 1. So anybody else? Did you recognize anyone else?
I kept what's the name of what's her name? Tina.
Laurel Holloman.
Yeah.
Is the actress name.
I know her from somewhere. I just don't know where. And I've researched her name on Google. I saw everything she was in, and I still can't figure it out. So I know her. I just don't know from where. Yeah.
So we've got Mia Kirshner playing Jenny Schechter. We have Jennifer Beals playing Bet Porter. We have Laura Holloman playing Tina Kennard. Leisha Haley playing Alice Piasecki. Catherine Moaning.
Piasecki?
Yeah.
Wow.
Catherine Moaning playing Shane McCutcheon. Pam Grier playing Kate Porter. Erin Daniels playing Dana Fairbanks. Karina Lombard playing Marina Ferrer. And Eric Mabius, I guess, is Tim Haspel, which is Jenny's boyfriend.
Yeah.
A long list of men and a long list of women and one man. And I looked at the names of the artists, which I didn't write them down here. The writers of the L Word are all women, so they're all female.
Oh, that's good to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here we go. What happens in each character during season 1? Okay, we open. So I'm just going to say some stuff, and then you can tell me what you think about each thing I say. It opens with Bet and Tina wanting to get pregnant.
Yes, indeed. Should I comment on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess it's normal for me to think of that now, like thinking of like two gay.
What do you mean normal?
Like it's common. It's more common for like people to want that, to like actually go after it, like surrogates and stuff.
Yeah, they do insemination.
Like for lesbians and sapphic women, they normally do insemination, or they just adopt, right? And for gay men, it's normally adoption or surrogacy, right? Yeah.
Okay. And so if this is something that's like very easy in your vocabulary, like it wasn't a shock to you or anything?
It wasn't a shock to me to see like gay families wanting to actually build like a family with kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see their struggle with it and like having to look for someone to be their donor and stuff. Nowadays, I don't know if don't they have like a book of donors that they can look through to see which one they want?
That would be interesting. I think they probably the sperm donors, I don't know if they would be anonymous or whatever, but they would have a profile there. And that's from what I've seen. It's not for me, it's not personal experience with it, but there would be like, you'd go to the bank and open up the book, and it would say this, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is this is their profession, these are their genetic things.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was kind of surprised to see that they were like actively looking for people they knew as their sperm donors, instead of just going to the bank and looking for one there. I guess maybe they just wanted it to be more personal. I don't know if they didn't have that option before, did they?
Well, they did have the sperm bank, so it's very possible that they did have that option. True. But they made it more personal, and they looked for someone they looked for a donor that they knew. They wanted it to be an artist.
The first one was their friend, wasn't it?
So, and the other one wasn't, the one who actually ended up being the donor was their friend, too.
Wasn't
one
he,
of their friends.
Friends with someone they were
Bet.
friends with? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Bet knew him.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, for It was I think was a subject not very much explored openly when it was made, when this series was made. It was like something that people were like not knowing about, that kind of option in a broad sense. You know, like the world could now, this was a series that anybody could watch and see a little bit into that world of like what people go through to try to have this happen in their lives.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it was really beautifully done, because they kind of opened up with that in the series, like as you know, a couple trying to build a family, like, and it doesn't mean they're trying to be traditional. It means that they just want to build a family. Yeah. You know, like, you know, they want to have a kid. They want to be a couple that has a family to build. So like that kind of, actually, in a non-traditional way, they introduce a traditional family concept. Yeah. So it kind of links the two worlds in a way. It's like someone who's not in that world might be able to see and be like, wow, I have something in common, because I want to have a baby too. Yeah, exactly. You know, something I thought was interesting to see was them telling Bet's dad that what they wanted to do, and his reaction and everything. And I thought it was very sad for Bet, obviously, because... And Tina. Yeah, and for Tina, of course. But, I mean, for Bet to see her dad, like, reject and say that he would reject her son just because he's not biologically hers. Mm-hmm. Which is very upsetting and very, like, sad for, you know, people who are adopted and adopt people as well, because they're also not biologically, you know... someone's kid, but that doesn't mean they're not someone's kid, you know? Right. And it's like, it's something very common for homophobic people to do, talk about biology and say, oh, biologically that's not how it works. But it's, you know, it's just BS and a reason to try to be mean to people. Yeah. Well, and sadly, he was representing a lot of parents out there, of gay people, and you know, they don't understand how it is and why it's important, and they just reject it, and it becomes very hurtful. Yeah, to people. That was a very hurtful, and it needed to be shown that this possibility and how we feel about it and how it hurts, even, you know, Bet was this one person. She was completely all together, you know, extremely you know, professional, very mature and responsible, and wanted to be a mother and all this kind of stuff, and then her dad just breaks her in half because he doesn't accept her choices. So it's very sad. Tina was just like, I thought it was, I don't know. I think Tina kind of was like, you know how your dad is. It's kind of like she expected it. Yeah, she wasn't exactly. I can imagine that the character was shown that she was hurt, but she wasn't shocked. You know? So I think what I noticed was that Bet really put her dad in a pedestal. Yeah. And thought that he was perfect and would never like hurt her. And Tina saw that he wasn't that great, you know, that he had his flaws and he wasn't as accepting as Bet thought he was. Later on, and not in season 1, later on we see more of the dad and what makes, and the relationship between Kit and Bet as you know, pertaining to the dad and stuff. There's a lot to unpack there. Oh, okay. It's cool. Interesting. Okay, so then we have Jenny arrives in LA to live with her boyfriend Tim, but soon is attracted to the owner of the cafe, The Planet. Yes. Marina. And we witness her coming out story and the fallout after Tim finds out she has been having a relationship with Marina. Marina ends up breaking Jenny's heart when her girlfriend Francesca shows up out of nowhere. Yeah. So that's like kind of like Jenny's whole thing. What? Yeah. I kind of assumed that was going to be what happened when I saw her watching because right in the beginning she like moves in and then she sees, I think it's Shane and some girl going into a Bet and Tina's pool. Yeah. And she watches. Basically Shane and some girl. Yeah. Shane and some girl. As in many scenes. Yeah. And she sees it from her
like fence or something, and I was like, I think she's gonna figure something out during this show. And yeah, I guess it's something that happens a lot, or I don't know if it still happens a lot, but
What do you mean?
like that, because nowadays I feel like it's a little bit, like, it's not 100% easier, but it is easier for you to figure yourself out before you're older. I think.
Why
At
do you
least
think
for
that?
people my age, most people have already figured out at least a little bit what their sexuality is. I think because now there's a lot more representation, and you can see a lot more of like how people figure themselves out, and like you can, if you have some doubts in your mind, you can watch a show and you're like, oh, I feel the same way this person feels, like maybe I'm like them. And I feel like it has become a little bit easier to find out what you feel before you get older and get into a relationship with someone without knowing, you know. But something that I guess, I don't know, I really think it's very a cliche in the gay storylines is the cheating on your boyfriend or girlfriend because you figure out you're gay. And it is a bit annoying to watch it so many times, because you kind of have this cliche and idea that some people can think that, oh, like gay people are cheaters,
right,
and whatever, and it's a bit bad, you know, a bad representation in some ways. But I guess, you know, I try not to think too much of that, because it's a show that, it was the first show to actually like show that much gay representation, and it did show all of the facets of gay stories.
So it was kind of cliche the way they showed Jenny's coming out story, but it was also cliches have a reason.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
Does happen.
It does happen.
Yeah.
And it was cliche, but it was before it became cliche, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't, but like it was. Yeah, I felt very bad for Tim.
Yeah.
Because he loved that girl so much. And you could see, I don't know if afterwards she figures out she doesn't like boys, but until now she still, you know, likes boys. And it kind of sucks as well, because it's not just that she figures out that she likes girls and she doesn't want to be with boys anymore. It's that she still likes boys, but she's still, even though liking boys, wait, let me reform that phrase. Even though, like, it must have hurt even more for Tim, because it's not just like, oh, she figured out she's a lesbian, she doesn't even like boys. She still likes boys, and she still cheated on him with someone else. Like, even though she liked boys, she still liked boys. It was just that she was figuring out that she also liked girls.
Yeah, we're going to see lots of what goes on with Jenny over the next 6 seasons. So that's just the introduction to her journey, I guess you could say, because basically the L Word is kind of centered around Jenny, but then of course it digs deep into the other characters too, but it kind of begins and ends kind of with something that's interesting about Jenny herself.
Really? Oh.
So you're going to see that and how that unfolds. And it's kind of, I'll be interested to see what you think of how they unpack Jenny, because you might have the same feelings about other things that they do. But there's lots and lots of stuff. I mean, there's lots of characters. We're just talking about Jenny right now.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the situation with Francesca, where you know, where she was nowhere and nobody knew. And the thing that made me think about that was that Jenny was so self-involved in her being torturously attracted to Marina, and oh my God, that they never had a conversation, and she wouldn't talk to any of her new friends about the situation. So she had no way of knowing there was a Francesca.
Exactly.
She never talked with Marina about anything. They only just went to bed or whatever. They only talked about the books or whatever. I mean, this is all, you know, and then, you know, she was like, oh, I told you, Francesca's coming back. Francesca, everybody knows about Francesca. And she was like, no, you didn't talk about Francesca. And I was like, of course they didn't talk about anything.
Exactly.
Because then you see the revelation, like Jenny opens her eyes and start looking around the apartment,
and there's even
the house,
pictures of
and
her.
There's pictures of Francesca. Everybody knows Francesca because when she shows up, all the girls talk with her like it's normal. And when somebody tries to turn and talk to Jenny and be like, I think it's Tina turns and talked about it. It's like, I know it's really difficult to go through this feelings, and if you ever want to talk, and Jenny pretends that it didn't exist because she didn't want anybody to know that she was cheating on Tim. She was ashamed that she was cheating on Tim, so she didn't talk to anybody about anything, because during any of that time people could turn around and be like, before you change, like before you blow up your whole life, you got to know Marina's not completely available.
Exactly.
And that didn't happen. And I think that the cautionary tale of Jenny during this season is talk to people.
Yeah. Talk to people. Talk about your feelings. She could have even talked to Tim about what she was feeling about, and she could have figured it out without blowing her life.
Yeah, possibly. She could have been at the moment.
Maybe they probably would have broken up anyway, but maybe it wouldn't have been such a
if they had a more
explosion.
A more impossibly honest relationship.
Yeah.
When Marina kissed her in the bathroom, he would have been like, are you okay? Because she was like, I gotta go from the party. And then Tim was like, are you all right? What, did anything really happen? Just I know, I was just drunk. And she could have turned him and like, something really shook me up.
Yeah.
This happened. And then it would have been no show. It would have been a show about that, about being honest.
Yeah.
And and why?
Yeah, obviously, in shows you can't make things easy.
Yeah, right.
You have to make things more dramatic.
Yeah. Speaking of which, let's go on. After Tina has a miscarriage, the couple deals with their feelings separately, and instead of the tragedy unifying the couple, they grow apart. And Bet ends up having an affair with the carpenter, Candace Jewel.
Yeah.
Who has Candace Jewel is the most made up name ever.
Yeah.
And she's very sexy, and she's just this little sex puppet that appears so Bet can have an outlet for her stress.
Yeah.
And it's the saddest thing, and I was like, I hated that happened, but I thought it needed to happen. And also that's something that happens when people go through a tragedy as a couple. If they don't find a way to unify through the tragedy, each one deals with it their own way, and then Tina kind of goes and does her own thing, and then Bet is completely stressed about the whole provocations show, and she's all stressed, and instead of finding each other in that bad feelings that they had, they split. And then Bet cheated as one of her symptoms of this problem.
Yeah.
And Tina, of course, she throws herself into work, but she doesn't, cheat or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of becomes this whole thing about infidelity.
Yeah.
And what did you think of that?
I hated it. I hated that it happened. I hate when there's so much cheating in shows. It just annoys me when it happens. Also because I feel like I would never, I don't know if they get back together or not, because I'm not in the part that I am, they don't get back together, but I know that I would never forgive something like that, because I feel like it's not, I wouldn't be able to be with someone who did that to me. So seeing a lot of shows where people do that and they end up forgiving each other or whatever, it's kind of annoying to me, because I keep thinking, oh, you're making someone who's young and watches that, or is in a relationship that someone cheats a lot or something, they're gonna see it and think, oh, that's normal, I should just forgive. So I don't like when that happens,
because you don't think you would forgive.
And right. I do feel like it's not a nice thing to do to someone.
Well, it's usually the way out the door.
Yeah, exactly. But but it's in the way that it happens between Bet and Tina. Bet before was talking about how she thought she was falling out of love with Tina while Tina was still pregnant.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was kind of, in a way, Bet trying to find a way out of the relationship.
Maybe.
But then she regrets it, you know?
Yeah, of course, she regrets it. And we also have the situation where Bet was extremely judgmental of Jenny.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that ironic?
It was very ironic. She was so judgmental of Jenny and Marina, and then she ends up doing something similar, you know?
So that gives you more things that we're going to be unpacking in the future, too.
Yeah.
Right, about why that is. Then we have Shane falls in love with her client, Sherry Jaffe, and it goes very badly.
Yeah.
That is all that I wrote down.
Yeah.
It just goes very badly.
You know, you start with Shane just not caring about other people's feelings, I guess. Not exactly not caring about other people's feelings, but not wanting a relationship.
Yeah, she doesn't want a relationship, but she does care. She tries to take care.
Yeah, and she cared. Even that girl that was, like, making posters and, like, calling her horrible names, she, like, cared. Yeah. You know? But then when she allows herself to feel something for someone and falls in love, is with someone that she had it was someone that wasn't really available. Right. You know? And it was someone that was married and her client, and it was a mess. It was a mess.
Bound to be destroyed.
Yeah.
Bound for...
exactly. It was bound to break up. Yeah. Yeah. And then the whole thing with the woman's daughter, who was also gay and wanted to have something with Shane. Yeah. And then Shane's like, no, I'm in love with someone else. And someone else is
her mom. Yeah, I think that was kind of cool, the way that was all written and webbed in between, because they could have just they could have made it like, oh, the husband finds out, but instead they got like a daughter involved and had that whole. I think that web was very coolly weaved. Yes. However, I hated seeing Shane so hurt and sad. Exactly. That scene where they are in the art gallery.
Jail? Oh no, in the art gallery.
In jail.
Yeah, in jail, where she waits for her.
I think everybody can relate to that in some way or another. Yeah. Waiting to high hours for somebody to appear who does not appear. It happens when you
doesn't even think to appear.
Yeah. You know? When you really like someone, you do it. And as everybody is like, go home, Shane, but then you think like, yeah, I'd wait too. Yeah. You know, or wait somewhere else. I don't know. But, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't wait in jail.
They waited. Well, she wasn't in jail, but.
Yeah, but she was in the police station.
I know. Right? I think that was just trying to dramatize it. And this is also, 2004 was like when cell phones were just kind of appearing as something. And it was very.
You couldn't just like text someone and be like, hey, where are you?
Yeah, I know. Right? And like, but it wasn't common yet. Like, it wasn't something that we do. It was like. Half the problems that happened in the 90s and in the beginning of the 2000s
would
be solved with two texts.
Yeah.
You know, and so like you want to just, you know, just like forget that part. But you know, they do have cell phones, and like Shane's the only one who like relies on her cell phone because she likes to have contact with all her little girls. And then she has and she stays there and she like leaves messages. That was when people left messages instead of texting.
It's so funny to me that I just adding on to something. I have seen in shows from nowadays where they do messages. Does that still happen? Can you still like leave messages to people? Because I have not figured out how to do that. Like, I know they say, like, if you want to say something...
That's what it is.
I know, but I never got any messages.
Because none of your friends would leave one. I haven't gotten a message since, like, in 10 years. I haven't left messages for people or listened to my messages in, like, 10 years. If anybody out there who calls me and leaves a message, I do not listen to them.
But also, I don't do it because you have to pay for it.
Well, no, I don't think we do. But I think because there's so many other ways to send an audio message.
Yeah, but I do feel like it is useful because if someone doesn't have like internet, they can't see what you sent.
You can see that's never happened to you. Yeah. So there's never been a reason to have a message. I guess. That's hilarious. Does that really still exist? Yes, it does. Or like after the tone, leave a message if you want, and then you start talking, but nobody ever listens to them. And if they do, it's probably for business.
But it's so funny because in shows they do it a lot. They still do it a lot.
But are you watching current shows?
Current shows.
Oh, I don't know.
And I was like, people don't do that anymore.
Well, maybe they do it in the States. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's different there. Maybe it's more common there. I don't know.
Here we just have audio messages and text messages.
Yeah.
And WhatsApp and...
Yeah.
Nobody leaves messages on the actual phone.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we have Shane, and she had that whole thing. And we see that Shane is a lot more than what she appears to be in the beginning. She's got a whole background that we're going to learn about in the future, too.
I'm excited to see, because I love Shane. I know that she's probably a fan favorite.
She's a fan favorite.
Because I love her. I'm in love with her. She's so pretty. Yeah. Oh, my God. She's beautiful.
She's a really cool
And I really like
Alice,
too. As well.
Yeah.
I love Alice.
What does it just talk about Alice? She tries to sell her idea about the chart to various people, but it doesn't quite catch on yet.
Oh.
So the chart is a thing. What did you think about that chart?
I thought it was... It's cool, and I think that it's something that I feel like my friends would do nowadays. For sure. Even though... I do think it's funny that every lesbian knows everyone. But I guess it's because...
that's just on TV.
Yeah, but I guess it does make sense because they're in, like, LA, and I guess they meet everyone in some type of way. Mm-hmm. So I guess they know people by name. Mm-hmm. So that's how they, like, were able to link.
Well, I mean, when everybody goes to the same clubs and bars, it's in the same city, you do kind of know a lot of the same people. I remember that age when I was in my 20s and I was going to the same clubs and bars every night. There would be every week there would be certain people that I would see all the time.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense that everybody knows each other, but of course it's an exaggeration.
Yeah, and it's an exaggeration. It's funny because it kind of goes to that thing of, like, you know, when someone comes out as gay and they're like, oh, I have a gay cousin, do you know them? And you're like, no, I don't.
Usually not.
Yeah, usually not. Sometimes you do. But I thought it was really cool to see, like, a bunch of, like, names intertwined. And I thought it was so funny that Shane was, like, huge because everyone was linked to Shane. And I feel like I know a Shane in my life. Yeah? That would be linked to a lot of people.
You do? Do you want to say who the person is?
No! I won't expose them.
Oh, you're too nice. If you're out there listening, does the person know English?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, then I have no idea who it is. And let me tell you, you know who you are.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's get into Dana. Dana dates a lovely chef called Lara. She has her own coming out process because she comes out publicly. She's a tennis player, and she hadn't come out publicly, and she comes out publicly as a tennis player, and she comes out to her parents.
Yes.
And the stress of that ruins her relationship with Laura. And then she meets a promoter called Tanya, who is arguably very annoying. Mm-hmm. And they get engaged.
Yeah. Okay. I loved Dana. I thought she was such a sweet character, and I kind of, you know, I felt for her. I obviously didn't go through the same thing while I came out because I was definitely easier for me.
But do you want to tell that
story?
Yes. Why are you coming out? You didn't tell us why. What, coming out of where? Oh. The audience does not know that part of you.
Right. Yeah, I am bisexual.
Okay.
But it was easy for me because I knew my mom was also bisexual, and I didn't have to go
told you that. Very young.
Yeah, that you have.
But because our talk, our quote unquote talk included that part, because I wanted it to be easy for you to know that kind of exists.
Yeah, and I knew that existed because I had a cousin that watched a lot of anime, and she was into the gay animes, also known as yaoi. Mm-hmm. And she showed me, like, she was like, hey, gay people.
Uh-huh. Gay people exist.
Yeah, and then
we also had gay friends.
Yeah, we had gay friends, and I had already started watching a bunch of TV shows, and some of them had, like, the little gay storyline, you know. And it was already at a time where I started searching for those gay storylines. And I also was in at that time I had the whole like shipping people phase, you know. And I think I when I figured out that I liked girls, I started like, not that I had figured out, but like I started like thinking, yeah, I probably like girls. It was because of a show I watched that there was this girl that I thought was really hot. And I was like, I don't think it's very straight for me to like her that much. And then I was like, I think I might like girls. And then I kind of got sure. It was the way I told you wasn't exactly telling you. It was like my friend told me that she liked me, friend that I'm still friends with, and you know her. And I started crying, and I was like, I don't know if I like her back, but I think I might, but I don't want to like hurt her.
I remember that.
And then like a week later, I guess I told you that we were like dating. We weren't really dating.
I know. Like you were young.
It was like those kid dating situation. And then it was just that. And then I also told my dad, I was like, hey, I have a girlfriend. And he was obviously accepting, but it took a while for him to understand that I was actually sure about it, you know.
Yeah.
But I was pretty young, so I understand why. I was like 13, I guess, when I started figuring that out. And it took a while for me to actually find the right label I wanted to call myself, because I was on Tumblr a lot, and Tumblr has a bunch of labels. And that's when I knew about pansexuality, and it wasn't a label that a lot of people knew at the time. And I kind of went from pansexual to bisexual a lot, but then I just ended up sticking with the label I liked better.
Do you think it's necessary for you to have a label?
I like it. I like having a label. For a while I was like, I don't think I need a label, that's stupid. But I feel comfort in it. Like, because I feel like it makes me know who I am better, I guess. It's different for each person, you know? Some people are comfortable not having labels, but I don't think I like it, not having labels.
No, everybody's different, of course. Yeah. There's no need to have a label. People can also change, and it's like nobody's business what you call yourself.
My friend, the one that said like me, and you know, my first girl crush, official girl crush, she for a while considered herself a lesbian, and nowadays she dates a boy. Doesn't make her any less bisexual or whatever. I think
it doesn't make anybody any less anything.
Yeah, exactly.
She just
it doesn't mean that she didn't like girls. It just means that she also liked boys. She just hadn't figured that out yet.
I think that it's interesting that you had that happen to you when you were 13. This kind of revelation is, I don't think, it's very funny that what you said. I don't think it's very straight to think that way about, you know, I didn't have that thought. I was in college and I was 23, I believe, 23 or 24. And I just met a girl, and I was, you know, and I met another student at my college at the time, and it was like, yeah, this is a thing. It was basically like with me and myself. I didn't have to cheat on anyone, and I figured it out for myself. And it was kind of like I realized, because I knew that she was bi, and she had just broken up with her boyfriend or something, and then she talked about the fact that she was bisexual, and I was just like, okay, because we became friends because she was in my college, and then it was like it became more, and then so it was like really weird because I had a bad experience coming out to family. But, you know, it is something that I thought would be easier for you if I would just like let it out all on the table and say, this is an option and I'm fine with it. So be whatever you want.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's kind of the reason that part of me personally was included in the talk that we had about, you know, sexuality, or about, I don't know, I think I showed you pictures of my old boyfriends and stuff.
You showed me, what you did was you got your big photo album from when you were a baby to when you were like 20 something, and you showed me all of the pictures and explained everything in your life.
Right.
That's what happened.
That's right. Okay.
I remember it very vividly. It was really fun.
I remember I decided to do that because, and then I'm going to have to sit down and do that with Nikki.
Yeah.
Also, that's because I think that's a mother's job is to, and also I wish that my mom had done that with me. You know, it's something that's like, you know, I think it would have been nice if my mom explained some things to me about herself before I needed to I needed to go through stuff, because a lot of stuff that I went through was, I don't know, a lot of pain I had was because I thought I needed to be a certain way. And I think if I knew my mom had gone through certain things, if there had been women's circles when I was younger, for example, I would have felt, not that I would have felt less pain, but I would have felt more normal in my pain.
Yeah.
I would have felt more normal.
Been so lonely.
Yeah, I felt really lonely in a lot of things that I went through as a teenager and stuff, because I thought I was the only one in the world who and I felt like a failure. But if I had known that my mom had lots of relationships and then she met my dad like this, or blah, blah, I maybe would have felt more normal. And so that's why I kind of like to do that with you guys. Like, every generation gets better. I'm sure that you, if you have kids, or if you have aunts, if you become an aunt and you talk to your nieces and nephews or whatever it is, if you pass on to the next generation, you'll probably do it better than me. Because I think everyone strives to be better. My mom, I'm sure she strived to be better than my grandma. In fact, I know she did.
I think every kid who becomes a parent tries to be better than their parent.
And then it's not meaning that what their mom did was bad.
Yeah.
It means that maybe it wasn't enough in some ways. And so, that's why I tried to do that. And it wasn't to, expose you or whatever. It was to maybe let you feel more free. I think everything is, my personal reason is because I want you to feel free to be whoever you want to be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So anyway, we get through that whole thing with Dana, and she comes out to her parents, and that's awful. And then the relationship breaks up, which I was very sad about, because I thought Laura and Dana were a sweet little couple.
Yeah, they were really nice to each other. And what really, you could see, it really pissed me off, the whole situation of her agent being like, no, you can't come out. The people who wanted to sponsor her wanted to use that, you know. And then she was like, she fired her agent because of it. And as someone who has watched a lot of shows and read a lot of things and even seen a lot of that type of stuff happen to actual actors and singers and blah blah blah, and I'm really into seeing stuff about the music industry and famous people industry. I know that actually happens. I have seen it happen in real life, so it was very interesting to see it in the show. I was like, oh, they're showing that as well. Yeah, I
think that's interesting, because I didn't realize that still goes on.
It does, unfortunately. I think it's not as common, definitely, but I know that
there's a lot more outness now.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. But I do know that until recently, there were still people getting out of that type of situation, of having managers or agents who were stay in the closet, don't come out, or getting a fake boyfriend or whatever. I remember there was some Disney actor from when I was a kid who had a girlfriend and everything, and then recently he came out and was like, yeah, that was a fake relationship. and I was like, wow. So that stuff actually happens, unfortunately.
So then we have Marina. Marina tries to kill herself.
Yeah.
And then Kit tries to make a deal with who turns out to be Marina's husband.
Yeah. I was shocked. Was that still in the first season? Or was that already in the second season?
Yeah, I
think it was in the second season already.
About the whole buying?
Yeah. But
no, because she tries to kill herself at the end of the first season.
But you don't see it happen.
You don't see it?
Exactly. They only talk about it in the second season.
No, in the first season, Jenny hears about that she tried to kill herself.
No, that's in the second season.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
and she
is.
passes out. It's the first season still. And she's dating, and Tim's still there, and she's dating that other girl, Robin.
Yeah, but that's the second season, Mommy. I swear to God.
No, it's the first season. Because the second season, Jenny's already living with Shane. Sorry.
No.
Spoilers.
No, she starts to live with Shane in the second season.
Right.
But it's in the beginning of the second season. In the beginning of the second season, Tim is leaving and everything. He hasn't left yet.
No.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm completely sure. I promise. I just watched it.
I just watched it too, so I don't know what the heck is going on. Well, anyway, all in the jumble of the end of...
Yeah, in the jumble of the end, that happens. The whole ending scene with Jenny in the first season was her in her little loft thing, whatever.
the garage.
The garage. With the girl and the guy she was seeing.
Robin and the guy, which I don't remember.
Yeah, the whale guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't a whale. Manatee.
Yeah.
Manatee.
Uh-huh.
Them talking to each other in that, I think it was a shed. Wasn't it a shed?
Yeah.
Yeah, in that shed thing. And then I remember the first scene with Jenny in the second season was her with the manatee guy, and they were walking around in the street, and she was looking at a bunch of girls. And then he was like,
bye.
It
was like, you know what? No thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Okay, I'm gonna accept that, because exactly the last scene is when Marina goes to the show with Robin.
Yeah. I feel like that was very mean of her to do. I guess she was just trying to get Jenny's attention because she liked her.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
We see that Marina's not all she's not the seductress that we thought she was in the beginning.
Yeah,
She's just kind of insecure and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So we're going to talk... I got mixed up. So, bad faux pas. I got a little bit into season 2 in the season 1 recap.
But it's fine. It was like the first episode of season 2.
The first one, because we got the drag king and that whole story, too, that we get into. And we talk about the whole idea of, what does the L word think about transgender things because of that whole problem. But let's get into that later. But then we have Alice realizing she's attracted to Dana, and Dana reciprocates on that last episode. She kisses her back and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, whoa.
I was kind of surprised. Not gonna lie, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of cute.
Yeah, it's cute. And but I was surprised and not impressed. But because I liked Lara with Dana.
But Lara wasn't with Dana anymore.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I did not like Tanya.
Yeah.
Tanya from the beginning was annoying to me. But
I am 100% sure she killed that cat. I am so sure she killed that cat.
So we have dramatic scenes.
Yeah.
Dramatic scenes. Okay, so first we have the very dramatic scene of when Sherry Jaffe's daughter realizes something is going going on between Sherry and Shane.
Yeah.
I love the way that was done. It was very dramatic because Shane busts into their house and Sherry Jaffe's in sweatpants and just feeling awful, and not for the reason that the father thinks.
Yeah.
That the husband thinks. She's awful, and she's get out, and Shane has to come and be no, nothing's going on.
Yeah, because the daughter was
delusional.
Going on between us. No,
that was delusional, and it was a little bit annoying. But you have to have a little bit of annoying delusions to try and make drama happen.
Yeah.
So that was.
And then the daughter realizes that the girl that Shane has been saying she's in love with is her mom.
Right. That was pretty dramatic, but I thought it was really well done, and kind of what you expected as everything falling apart. It needed to fall apart, and it was a very cool way to make it fall apart.
Yeah,
because you got the daughter involved and stuff.
Yeah,
which was cool. I think it was very much cooler than just the husband finding out.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was cooler.
Although it's very sad for Shane, and So then we have the dramatic scene, the caught you in the act scene of Marina and Jenny were together, and then Tim.
Yeah.
That's a very awful scene, and which is extremely TV and movie. People walk in on each other all the time in TVs and movies and stuff. And it sucked.
Yeah.
It just was awful.
It was like, because I remember the thing was that Tim forgot his
lucky watch.
His lucky
pocket
watch.
They have their whole thing where they just like in one day they just decide to go get married, and that was you know. But it was also very intense when she goes and approaches him when he's outside with the bus.
Yeah.
And like everybody thinks that he's beating up on her and stuff. It's like awful. It's just
awful.
really, it's very, very ugly and very, very possible to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And then we have also the best dramatic part was the moment of realization of Tina when she sees Bet and Candace Jewel.
They're not even like doing anything.
No.
They just like touch hands, and it's just
something
it was
subtle.
very obvious.
Yeah.
Like for someone, I feel like it was obvious to see, but it was subtle. Mm-hmm. You know, but you could see by the way they were looking at each other, the way they're like
their body language was. It was very stupid because anyone could have seen them.
Exactly. Like why would you do that?
I know, but they were thinking that nobody was seeing them, and so there you go.
Yeah.
And Tina was far away.
Mm-hmm.
So they were thinking they were alone, and they were trying to be subtle, but it was so obvious. And it was very awesome that Tina saw that, and that's how she figured it out.
Yeah.
It's very indicative to how women pay attention.
Yeah.
You know, like how women really do pay attention to
even
subtleties.
afterwards, I think someone mentions like, oh, she just realized because their hands touch, and they're like, oh, we know when that happened.
Yeah, like I think it was Alice. She said like she saw
them touching
together and she knew. It was like because you can know. You can know. And so that was awful for Tina, and then that whole scene
was so uncomfortable.
Was so the most uncomfortable scene. And the way Tina talks and stuff and screams and like it's just all uncomfortable.
Yeah. And very wrong.
Yeah, it was like a really badly no, it was not that it was badly done, but I don't know, but perhaps it was badly directed. I don't know, but I didn't like watching that scene. Yeah. But maybe it's because of what was going on in the scene.
Yeah, but what it like it felt like I was seeing someone being assaulted.
Yeah,
it was very uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weirdly approached that whole subject, but it's very. I've seen that in other movies and of people trying to be like, I hate you, and then they go and they try. It's very like they try and kiss each other and they get together, but it's violent and it's not, and they hate each other and they love each other and they don't know what to do. I think that's what they were trying to achieve.
Yeah, but it was made in a way that it was just bad.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like it. I remembered the whole thing because you talked about the guy and the drag king, but there was something before with the lesbian guy that I was thinking about. You remember that?
Right, that's the first season.
So weird to me. I was like, when he first said that he was a lesbian guy, I was like, he called himself Lisa, and he didn't like to use his like penis during sex or anything, and I was like, maybe there's something going on with his gender. But the way they wrote it didn't like help you understand what was going on.
Yeah, I found that to be confusing as a person watching, because I didn't know what the writers were trying to say about it. I understood Alice's point of view. Yeah. She was like, I'm bisexual. I like to date a guy who is a guy or a girl who is a girl. Like not a guy who is a girl who is a guy who is a girl. Like that did not go, like, I didn't think that her comments were transphobic. I think that maybe, I don't know, because you don't know, and I don't know. What I thought was, I don't think it was exactly transphobic, because the way they were doing it was that the guy wasn't trans. Right. They weren't making him trans. Right. So, like, I feel like it was too confusing, and I feel like for people who don't understand the community at all, doing that, putting that in a show and like not explaining anything is very confusing. and appears transphobic.
Exactly, and appears transphobic because why is this guy calling himself a lesbian? You know, like, why is he a guy, or is he like you don't understand what the writers were trying to say. Like, were they trying to say that this person was figuring out that they actually were a girl, or are they just trying to say that this guy is weird?
I know, that's the thing. I think they were trying to, that's the thing. It comes off that they're trying to say this guy is weird instead of just saying this type of person exists.
Exactly. Right? Instead of like doing this whole thing like, oh, there's this person who is figuring out their gender and blah 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 blah.
Instead or their identity.
Or their identity. And instead of doing that, they just made it into this annoying person who didn't know.
They kept on saying, stop being such a les to him or to her. I don't know, Lisa.
Yeah, like, 'cause you don't really know what to call them because they don't really explain what's going on.
Yeah, and
if they had explained, I would have understood a lot more.
Yeah.
I had a lot of conflicting thoughts while watching that whole thing go, because at first I was very uncomfortable because I was like, there's this guy saying that he's a lesbian and it just made me go back to that thing that I know that a lot of men do of like fetishizing women who like women. And it was like, if I was like, is that what's going on? At first that's what I kept thinking, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. But then I realized that they were calling himself Lisa, and there's that whole thing, and I was like, so that's not exactly what's going on, but they're not explaining it either.
Right.
And then Alice is like going through other stuff, and then it just doesn't work, and it just made no sense to me. It just was very confusing to do it that way.
I think that there have been a lot of criticism. There's been a lot of criticism of the L Word because of their treatment of the transgender issue, and we're going to get more into that when you see more of Ivan, and also when you see more of in the future, Jenny's going to date someone who has this issue, and we're going to get into it. And so there's going to be more talk about that, seeing what you think, and from being from your generation.
It was pretty forward for a lesbian show, but I feel like for that type of stuff, it probably wasn't that forward. You know, like for...
What do you mean, forward thinking?
Yeah. Like in the whole... Like, I feel like even shows that are very, like... gay, lesbian, bisexual, positive, they can still do very like transphobic storylines.
There can
be, because it's something that if you're not trans, it's very hard for you to explain how it works.
And also I read something, a criticism about it, and an explanation of perhaps because the reason why it has so many conflicting types of viewpoints about the transgender aspect of it is because it reflects the opinions of people in the lesbian community.
Exactly.
Not necessarily like who made it, but it's reflecting opinions that actually exist also.
Yeah,
the people are,
because there are a lot of people that are gay, lesbian, bi, even like everything. Like there are a lot of people even in the community who are still transphobic.
Yeah, that doesn't make it right. And also, then you get, when you start watching Generation Q, you're going to get a whole other approach to transgender.
Yeah.
It is not shown the same way at all as it is in the L Word original.
That makes me glad.
Yeah, it's a whole other, because I think it just evolved.
Exactly, because like even like thinking of other shows, like for example, like Sex and the City was very evolved, thinking of like being a show with women talking about sex and being very open about it. It was evolved in that situation, but it was also not evolved that much if you think about the fact that they were all white women. There were no, like, they made fun of bisexuals in it.
Yeah.
You know, it was, there was that whole thing. So when it, even when shows are, like, forward in some stuff, sometimes they aren't in other stuff. But you have to, like, kind of think of, like, oh, when was this show made? I do think that you have to, like, call out, like, these shows, even if they're old shows, and at that time it was like normal to think that way about people. I think you have to call it out. I try to, like, not be too critical on it for me to be able to watch it and then be critical on it. You know what I mean? Like, not stop watching it just because it had some conflicting things. I want to watch it to see why people thought it was that good and then call out the parts that were bad. That's how I like to
That's kind of how you approach watching this show, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have done our first podcast about the L word. This has been the ABCX&Z of the L word with Kim and Janaina.
Yeah.
And for us to sign off, a quote by Shane.
Sexuality is fluid. Whether you're gay or you're straight or you're bisexual, you just go with the flow.
And that's it.
And that's it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.